You know you're a complete out-of-touch moron when a fake news actor from the Communist News Network has to set you straight on the basic facts of criminal activity. Allison Camerata takes an opportunity to introduce Constitution-violating, gun-grabbing beta male O'Rourke to a concept he obviously doesn't think too much about. Logic.
One of the more pointed clashes in last night's debate came between Mayor Pete Buttigieg and former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke. This was over O'Rourke's plan for a mandatory buyback of assault weapons.
You just made it clear that you don't know how this is actually going to take weapons off the streets. If you can develop the plan further, I think we can have a debate about it, but we can't wait. People are dying in the streets right now.
Those students who marched for our lives, who in fact came up with this extraordinary, bold peace plan that calls for mandatory buybacks. Let's follow their inspiration and lead and not be limited by the polls and the consultants and the focus groups.
The problem isn't the polls, the problem is the policy. And I don't need lessons from you on courage, political or personal.
All right, joining us now is 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning, Allison.
Great to have you. So let's dive into that exchange in particular, because it sounded like what Mayor Buttigieg was saying was that your plan was not fleshed out enough. Can you flesh it out more? How do you plan to get assault weapons away from people who don't want to give them up?
It's pretty simple. As with any law in this country, we would expect our fellow Americans to follow the law. It's one of those things that distinguishes us from so much of the rest of the world. We're a nation of laws, and no person is above the law, no matter how much they may disagree with a given law. We also have the precedent of Australia, which took the bold step of having a mandatory buyback of these AR-15s and AK-47s. As you know, weapons that were designed for war, to kill people on a battlefield, that have no use for hunting or self-defense. In your home, but can kill people at a terrifying rate and terrifying numbers if left in the hands of civilians. And we've seen that in El Paso, in Dayton, in Odessa, throughout this country.
But
so
Congressman, I mean,
this is the right thing to do, and I fully expect my fellow Americans to follow the law.
You expect mass shooters to follow the law?
Hi, boys and girls. Larry Lemming here. Let me just say this. I'm a freaking lemming, and even I wouldn't jump off a cliff over the fountains of BS that gush out of beta male's mouth. So before he attempts a non-answer to this fair question from this CNN actor, Beta is always spouting ignorant kindergarten nonsense when talking about these scary weapons of war. Catchphrases like designed for the battlefield and guns that kill people at terrifying rates and in terrifying numbers if left in the hands of civilians, and broad brush statements like those guns have no use for hunting or self-defense, even though tens of thousands of people use them for just those reasons on a routine basis. It's all undiluted bullshit, streaming from Beta's mouth at a more terrifying rate than any AR could possibly deliver. So, back to Allison's question.
You expect mass shooters to follow the law?
Our fellow Americans will follow the law, yes.
Congressman,
and
mass shooters don't fall by
16
definition.
million...
The mass shooters in Parkland, in El Paso, I could go on for 10 minutes. They don't follow the law by definition.
Don't! There are so many instances where the proposals that we've made, whether it is a universal background check or a red flag law, or ending the sale of weapons of war, or buying those that are out there back, would have stopped many of the shootings that we see in a country that loses 40,000 people a year to gun violence.
Now, CNN won't say this because they're not allowed to, but the creation of the kinds of laws Beta Male is proposing criminalizes people who aren't criminals. And the only guns that will be turned in by people who wouldn't have committed a crime with those guns in the first place. And that 40,000 number he keeps dishonestly using, it includes over 60% who use a firearm to commit suicide. And a very small fraction of the remaining number dies by using any kind of long rifle, including an AR-15 AR-15 or AK-47. Here's another ironic thing about beta male O'Dork wanting to make more laws supposedly to make society safer. Every law is backed by the threat of force by a government gun. So, in his false pursuit to stop gun violence, beta male here is essentially threatening peaceful Americans with government gun violence if they don't comply with his commands.
Would it stop every single shooting? No. But that should be no excuse for not taking action now while we have the opportunity to do the right thing.
This is hilarious. Beta is calling gun confiscation at gunpoint the right thing. This guy is so stupid, he probably requests a price check at the dollar store and tries to put M&Ms in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
And we also shouldn't be limited by the politics or the conventional political wisdom.
Or any wisdom for that matter. This is the kind of guy that needs 5 hours to watch 60 Minutes. We got a real beauty here, ladies and gentlemen. A real bona fide beauty. Probably the kind of retard who would sell his car for gas money or study for a blood test and fail.
Or the polling or the consultant class or the
No,
NRA
understood.
on
I mean, I
finally
think
taking
that-
decisive action.
Understood. And I think that what Mayor Buttigieg was saying, yeah, it's obviously think high, aim, shoot for something aspirational, but it doesn't make sense that people are going to hand over their assault weapons. If they're mass shooters, if they want to do harm to people, they're not going to follow the law.
Let's go even further. What you've done here is made law-abiders powerless while empowering criminals. It's really elementary, my dear Watson. But Beto O'Rourke is one of those people where they had to burn down the school just to get him out of the 3rd grade.
So then what's your plan?
Yeah. So I don't know that you make any law or stop making any law because you fear that some people will not follow the law in any part of American life. And so, yes, if somebody has an assault weapon, a weapon of war, and poses a danger to people in their lives or people in their community or people in our lives, then we're going to stop them. And
Meaning what?
and
You're
I
going to
think
go
that's
to
a
their
matter
house.
for
Just
law
tell us
enforcement.
how it works. You're going to go to if somebody doesn't voluntarily hand over their assault weapon, you're going to go to their house, and then what?
If we pass this law, then I expect our fellow Americans to follow the law. And this is not speculation. We've seen other countries do this, like
I
Australia,
understand.
that have seen a significant decrease in.
Law-abiding people follow the law, but our problem is with mass shooters who don't.
Allison, by that logic, we wouldn't commence writing any new legislation.
Bingo! We don't need more legislation. We have a Bill of Rights. We already know it's wrong to murder and steal stuff that's not yours. More laws remove more rights and degrade society. More laws create a slave class, while the ruling class, like Beto here, gets away with murder. Or DUIs.
Or signing anything into law for fear of some people not following the law. So we know, because we've seen this in other countries, that when we take this step, we save the lives of those who would otherwise be taken from these mass shootings. We prevent guns from getting into the wrong hands, and we take them out of the hands of those who shouldn't own them in the first place. And unlike a handgun or a shotgun or a hunting rifle, an AR-15 and AK-47 is materially different. It is a weapon of war designed to kill people on a battlefield. And if we just throw up our hands and say, this is going to be tough to do, or some people aren't going to follow the law, then we consign ourselves and become complicit in the deaths of our fellow Americans. And after El Paso or Odessa or Dayton or all these mass shootings, I'm not going to become complacent. I'm going to do what might be politically difficult to do. It may not be popular in all circles, but is necessary to save lives.
I understand that that's your aspiration. And I think that the question was, and then what? And then what's next? Because it sounds like confiscation.
Sounds like confiscation? Let me see.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
That doesn't just sound like confiscation. It is confiscation, boys and girls.
And I just can't tell if you're comfortable with that. That's a buzzword that makes a lot of people on the right and gun owners nervous. And so if that's what you're suggesting.
No, I'm not suggesting that.
Why, no, Allison, I'm not suggesting confiscation. I'm just demanding that you turn your guns in, or my men with guns will come and take them against your will and without your consent. What a whack job.
And I think that's why people use the word confiscation, because it scares people. What I'm talking about is a mandatory buyback.
Oh, okay, so confiscation. Got it.
Where Americans who own an AR-15 or an AK-47 will sell that weapon back to the government. And there is precedent for doing this in other parts of the world successfully, without infringing upon our fellow Americans' Second Amendment rights to own a firearm that they need for self-defense in their home or to go hunting or...
So, Allison, you see, I'm not going to infringe. I'm just going to infringe. It's pretty clear, pretty simple.
For collection or sport, we can take those weapons that pose a mortal risk to our fellow Americans. Instruments of terror that have terrorized our fellow Americans, and for as long as they are out there, strike terror in the hearts of so many, including people going to school right now who are participating in active shooter drills because we still have these weapons out there. Let's do something about it.
Actually, let's do something about Beta. He's obviously a danger to himself and others. If you guys got something out of this video, please take a second to give it a like and share it everywhere you can on social media. It really helps us beat YouTube's censorship and suppression algorithms. This is Larry Lemming, signing out. And remember, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and indifference to this notion is the means by which the people will secure their own oppression. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comments section below, and I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.
Before you go, check out our new shirt designs in the shirt store. Here's the Beta Hates America design. Hell no, you're not taking my AR-15. And nobody needs an AR-15. Well, nobody needs a whiny little bitch either. And yet, here you are. And against all enemies, Democrat and Republican. There are over 90 other kick-ass designs in the store and the links in the description. Your purchase supports the message of freedom on this channel. If you get something out of this content, help me beat YouTube's censorship algorithms by liking and sharing this video. And while you're here, why not watch a couple more of my videos? Until next time, stand firm, stay vigilant, and for the sake of all that is right and good, stop giving your rights away to tyrannical psychopaths who want to destroy this country.